coming up on Influencing Entrepreneurs.
What are some of the things that you just don't enjoy about running your own business?
Accounting, that's one. It's hard to understand things that your brain is not set up to do.
After years of teaching entrepreneurship and consulting with numerous companies, I realized that when business leaders shared stories of their success, hardships, and mistakes, it always had an impact in the classroom. So I thought, why not share these real-life business cases for education and inspiration? I'm Cassmer Ward, and this is Influencing Entrepreneurs.
On today's episode, we speak with Jack Ossa of Ossa Studios. Ossa Studios helps people create impactful experiences through the power of design. Jack is the founder of and principal architect, having previously worked as a senior project architect at Gensler, an international integrated architecture, design, planning, and consulting firm. Jack has worked on dozens of commercial, mixed-use, and residential projects and provided principal design for the worldwide corporate headquarters of SPX Corporation and the offices of the Duke Endowment. Jack earned his bachelor's degree in architecture from the Jorge Tadeo Lozano University in Bogota, Colombia.
Thank you for being here today, Jack.
Thank you for having me.
So one of the things I just want to start with is, what does it mean to create impactful experiences through design?
It means a lot. When you look at how we experience the world, we're always using, our eyes, our senses, to do whatever we need to do in our homes, in our workplaces, wherever we go. But somebody needs to think about that environment. Somebody needs to create that space, that scenario for life to happen. And to me, that's the power of design, because you create these places with certain characteristics. And when you're using those spaces, your experience should be functional, but also beautiful. I see the design experience as a human brain going through places and with the senses experimenting what somebody else thought for them to happen.
Okay, so your background's in architecture. You
Yes.
start your career building, doing both commercial and some residential.
Yes.
Early on. How do you see that this is something that the public needs to be educated on when they start building and start that design phase?
That's a great question. In general, when people are not within the design world, I see that it's hard for them to understand what design is about. When you think about everything you own, everything you have has been designed by somebody else, there is an impact when you're using that object or space. When people understand that impact, they can be more aggressive in terms of demanding good design. Sometimes we give up our right to demand good design because design impacts the way we live and the way we use things. When you look at the best design objects or spaces, they're just things that you love to use. People always use Apple, but it's a perfect example of great design. It functions well, it's beautiful, it's easy to use. The same way when we're thinking about buildings or brands or even web experiences, you can also take it to that next level. How many times have you been on websites where you don't know where things are, that are hard to find and that are not pleasing to you? If good design can make that experience much better, including architecture.
You've started taking your theory of design from an architectural piece outside of architecture.
Yes.
And what prompts that? Because it is an artistic part of the brain that you're using, but what prompts you to say, I think my design eye could help in the other industries?
When you think about architecture, to me, it's the perfect combination between technique and art. You need to be very artistic and sensible to imagine and create. However, you need to be very technical because you need to understand construction, budgets, time, manufacturing processes. So it really encompasses to me, what's the whole spectrum of human capability in your left brain and right brain. You can employ any of those areas. That's what I love about the profession of architecture. You can have people that are more design oriented. They can perform great during the design process. You have people that are more technical. They could be really good at creating construction drawings or looking at construction details or the engineering side of the profession. So there is a lot of places for people to be on. When I started working in the design world, I realized that there is a very typical design process we go through. I call it the design process. And as you mature within the profession, you start developing your own design process, implementing your own thinking into how to solve problems through design. And it takes, the basic idea of having a lot of information, organizing the information, sketching ideas, trying possible solutions, refining that solution, and taking them to a final production of what that is. So when I started in the profession, I realized that my thinking, I was applying it to solve other kinds of problems. And I started realizing of what is it really that I'm bringing to the world and to the marketplace as a business, and is the design thinking, is the strategic value of design to solve problems. So I started applying that initially to brands, understanding how do you build the architecture of a brand, and using the architectural design process to do that. So I started realizing how that process was giving me a very unique advantage to solve other types of more conceptual or strategic problems in the business world.
So did that idea start Ossa Studios, or did you start as just an architecture firm to begin with?
Good question. So yes and no, I don't know. So Ossa Studio is my dream come true. So I'm a first generation immigrant, and since I was very young in Colombia going to architecture school, my dream was to go to United States and have my own firm. It was a very high up in the sky dream. I eventually came to United States, started working for architectural firms, started kind of gaining experience, always having the dream inside me. However, I started forming a family, and when you're an immigrant, your first reaction is to assimilate the culture and fit in. And so I tried to do that as best as I could, but in that process, I realized I started to kind of, I will say, give up on my dream. Because of just the basic mindset of an adult working for somebody. You have your paycheck, you have your benefits, you start having kids, and you're like, oh my God, all these things, where is my provision coming from? And if I do this on my own. So I started to realize how I was starting to give up on myself and my potential because of this fake sense of security that unemployment was giving me. I always thought about it, so I was always thinking about the architectural world, the design. During my architecture years, I was also doing brand design work. So I was like, well, this could be a good idea. Let's cut through the chase, start the firm. So that's what I did about 3 years ago, and initially as an architecture firm and brand design firm. So when I started interacting directly with the marketplace within my industry, specifically the design and construction industry, having conversations with people, I realized how they started asking me for more services that I wasn't really offering, like strategic thinking, like workshops, and like, hey, can you help me clarify our brand? So I'm like, okay, yeah, I can do that. And they're like,
because
okay,
we say yes to everything.
Yeah,
yes.
And they're like, how much is that? I'm like, oh no, I don't know, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. I started because I never thought of selling it. When I realized, wow, there's a huge need in the marketplace for clarity thinking, so you can really do what you do the best. So it was kind of like by accident, because I saw that the information I had and my point of view was asked for in the marketplace. And then it started slowly becoming, and it's still growing, but it's slowly becoming more clear to me what is it that I'm selling.
So 3 years ago, you start Ossa Studios.
Yes.
Up. But before that, you are working with an architecture firm.
Yes.
How do they feel about your idea to go outside of just structural architecture into the design world? I got to imagine you're met with some odd stares and.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I got to a point in my life before I left where my spirit and my mind quit like a year before my body quit. Like I was gone. Like my mind was already thinking other things, creating. So I was very detached from the workplace. That honestly, that's what I felt. I will go there, do my best, and deliver what I had to deliver. But I think emotionally, I was not involved because I realized that I gained a lot of perspective that was not my dream.
Then what triggered you to leave that job? What was the straw that broke the camel's back?
It was slowly building up. So I will say maybe it was about 2 years when I was really struggle internally because I had a great job at the best architectural firm you can work in the world. Great benefits, great people, great projects, like no complaint. I got to the point where I said, I made it. I did it. I'm an immigrant. I'm working at this great place. I make good money. I'm happy. However, I was not happy. So it took about me 2 years to just struggle because I thought I judged myself thinking that I was ungrateful for what I have accomplished, but was still not happy. So slowly I started realizing that it was just another step, another cycle in my life, that it was over and it was time for me just to go to the next level. And it was the time where I had to really believe in myself and I will see it at the next step of evolution in my life. And I was there to maybe 80%, and the other 20% it was my wife, because the way she believed in me, it was far greater to the way I believe in myself. And having conversations with her, she was every day like really pushing me and helping me see that potential. And she was the one that made, she gave me the last push.
So it's a huge leap of faith. So you open up the business the first day.
Yeah.
What does that first day feel like?
Amazing. I had a lot of background mental preparation to be there. Like when my first day was like, of course, I was supposed to be here. Materially, I didn't have the projects, the money, the resources that I needed. And I have my wife and 3 kids, and my wife stays at home with my kids. And I had maybe 2 months to pay my bills. That's all I had. And I bought a computer, the best computer I could, and started calling people. All the people I have interacted with in the past, sending emails, say, hey, I started my own firm, love an opportunity to do something.
How long before that first customer or first project?
Oh, it was really fast, probably the first week. Very small things, like residential addition or a pool house or a small logo, things that were very, very small. But, at that point, the things start running, now the ball's moving, things are gaining traction. So I was just started executing on my best. I always say that what I'm selling is, I want to make my clients feel that whatever I did, it was worth a lot more. So delivering, an amazing amount of value that they didn't expect. And I do that in a very small project or in a very big project. Doesn't matter.
You start based on your architectural background with a structural design. What's the first project that comes along that goes above and beyond to what's become Ossa Studios?
Well, it's in the marketplace. It's a very slow process. When you're doing architecture and you're dealing with building codes and you have your liability insurance, you're a licensed professional. There are a lot of things that are at stake when you're doing that. So the marketplace is a very slow process when you start releasing. They give you small projects. Can you do this? Can you do this? You start kind of proving yourself and proving the value. Even though I used to do huge projects before at a bigger firm, the perception in the marketplace is that the bigger firm can handle it, one person can't, even though I was doing it on my own when I was inside a bigger brand. But that, that's just marketplace perception, and it's okay. That's part of the business. There's nothing wrong with that. So I slowly started gaining more, more bigger and better projects. Now to the point where, and that's even recent, because in 3 years, it's not a lot of times in terms of the architectural world to, gain, market share and things like that. But I feel when I got to the point where I'm very efficient, I have very clear what is it that I'm bringing to the marketplace, and I'm starting to compete with other bigger firms, and I'm starting to win. So I'm realizing how, all the background and all the preparation is starting to make sense now, because the proof is you get the project, right? It's not only in my mind thinking, yeah, I think this is the best, but how do you prove it? When the marketplace reacts to it saying, yeah, we value, this is money in exchange for all that value we're perceiving from what you bring.
You start going into brand design, all of those different pieces. And you brought it up very early on, that we hire an architecture to resign ourselves to the process. Your process is, don't resign yourself to it, become engaged with it.
Yes.
How do you engage your customer base so they can put a little bit of themselves into your vision?
Well, I will say it is the other way around. How do I understand the client's vision, and I immerse myself in that vision to help them make that vision reality? Because if you need a project, it's not my project, it's your project.
That goes from, then who's the first person that comes and says, start working on my brand based on the work you've done?
It depends where they, if they know me, or they hear from me on social media, or they meet me, or somebody talk to them about me. But usually it's when they realize that they have a need for their business. It could be in the branding or in the design world. And they learn that I have a unique perspective of how to meet that need. So that's the best thing, where I can quickly understand the client's needs, and that I'm aligned to that need. And what I try to do with my business development process, as I talk to people and talk to prospects or potential clients, I want to quickly be efficient and remove the clients that are not aligned with my vision, because I'm wasting their time and I'm wasting my time, right? So when clients are looking for like cheap, quick architectural services, I can refer them to somebody who does that. Or when they want somebody to just sign a set of drawings because they need a permit, I can facilitate that and help them find somebody to do that. I don't sell that product.
I have to imagine there's not a lot of firms in architecture that offer the breadth of services that you do. Have you run across any that play in the same space as you?
No. There are some firms like IDEO or WD Partners, they're big national global companies that they're only design thinking, and then architecture is a small leg of their breadth of services, but not of what I'm doing. That's one of the things that is helping me understand. I didn't know that it was so unique. Now I'm seeing it, because you may have some firms where the root might be the graphics part, and they do a little bit of environmental work, on architectural side, but not with the root of the architecture foundation as the thinking, bed for everything that happens.
With being that unique firm, tell me a time where you feel that is an advantage, and another time where it's a disadvantage.
It's an advantage when I understand what the client need is, and I kind of know, or I can quickly understand who the competition is, because I know how can I differentiate myself easily. So that's an advantage. And it's a disadvantage when people come asking for, I just need, a plain service, architectural service. Well, I can do it, but that's not where I bring the most value. So at that point, it become honestly a game of cash flow. Sometimes I just do it because I need to keep the machine running. But as things get better, I can align myself with people who value what I'm bringing, so they can pay the extra value that brings to their projects.
So how do you educate your customers to buy into your process of design thinking?
Ideally, I don't have to educate them. That's the best client, where there is just immediate connection, understanding, and we quickly move forward to execution. That's the best place for them and for me. If I have to educate too much, it's a waste of time, because they're not gonna see the value. They're just not gonna see it, and I don't have time for that. Usually it's conversations like the ones you and I are having, where I can explain my thinking, ask a lot of questions, because I want to make sure that they feel that it's not my project, it's not for me, it's your project, it's your idea, it's your vision, and I'm gonna bring my thinking within it to make it its full potential.
Starting your own firm, you get the few victories, you get the clients, you make calls within the first few weeks, you evolve what your company does. What are some of the things that you just don't enjoy about running your own business?
Accounting, that's one. It's hard to understand things that your brain is not set up to do. When I see myself being very efficient and proactive on some tasks that align with my natural abilities, it's hard for me to enjoy things that just take a lot of my energy and time, and I don't see the progress. So I will say accounting is one of those, which it's not good, because it's all about the numbers, you know that. So paying attention to the numbers takes a lot of discipline, and once you take the eye out of the numbers, anything could happen, and you realize later. So that's one of the things. The other thing might be my ability to focus, because I love to do many different things. I'm a multitasker. That's just the way my brain works. So that I realize that is what I bring to my clients. I consume a lot of information in many different ways, and it's synthesizing and understanding all those inputs and providing one simple solution that includes that. So trying to focus or be in just one lane is being hard for me.
Wanting to be a multitasker and to do a lot of different things, what's next?
It changes very quickly, because in 3 years the business had changed a lot. So now I'm like looking at the next 5-10 years and kind of rethinking all those plans. But I think it's one, build a team. So I see my first 3 years as build the craft, build the brand, and build the marketplace interaction. Phase 2 is going to be build the team where I can translate that brand, the vision, and the culture. And the next phase is going to be build the systems to have that in place, create leadership within the firm that I can provide all the tools they need to keep growing the vision. And the last and the fourth step will be a point where I don't have to touch the business, and the business will do what I created the business to do.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being a part of this today. If people want to find out more, they can go to www.ossastudios.com.
Yes, and also they can check my podcast called The Power of Design Podcast.
Okay.
.com is the website, or we are on Apple, Stitcher Radio, and Spotify.
All right, we'll make sure we make that available for all our watchers. Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Nexagy Education, or visit influencingentrepreneurs.com to catch up on previous episodes with Cassmer Ward.